Hi everyone, I'm Ali Warner. I'm also in the Vocal Constructivists, and yeah, I don't find it fun. It's not really my objective, I guess. So I mean, maybe I just don't like to admit it. Maybe it has been quite fun sometimes, but I don't think of it as fun. It's kind of a bit more important than that in a way. I don't know. I guess I feel with music is something really, actually really sacred and powerful and wonderful, or frustrating. So I can go with the frustrating one. And I think I realised that actually singing more classical music within a very strong form, I quite enjoy just surrendering to the form. And what I found really frustrating, then I also was just doing free experimental improvisation, and then I came to engage with the graphic scores. And what I found frustrating was then, which I think we've had in some of the talks has been said as one of the points of this sort of thing, is being forced to kind of collaborate with my peers on what a little squiggle actually means and what kind of sound we would make, and having to deal with my emotions if they propose a sound that I don't like. I don't want to make that sound. So it's the whole kind of, in some way a top-down form is quite, you can kind of, if I accept that form, I can relax into it. And here we actually, as a community, had to kind of work together to respond to the graphic score, and at times, for me, that's frustrating. And I'm sure that there's a benefit from that. That's probably why I came to this, to find a way. I wanted to find a way to be a musician or a singer and have some freedom, but also in the company of others. So I don't know if that's smirched, but that's what I found with the Vocal Constructivists and with the scores.
I think you're going to get in the impression, I'm Rachel Hewitt from the Vocal Constructivists, that one of the things that's fun about being in the Vocal Constructivists is that we're all really sort of performance, and we'll all get up and say something about anything. I think the thing that I found both fun and frustrating in equal measures at the same time is the fact there isn't actually any end to the process. We performed a concert last night, but that isn't the end of it. We could carry on working on those same things for another 2 years. We probably will. We'll find other things to do as well. And that's frustrating because you never can sort of sit there and think, okay, well, that's that one done with. But it's also fun because if you're not satisfied with what you did, there's the next one. Smashed it? I don't know.
All right. I think also that the portion of the notation, how that brings that portion of fun and frustration and smirched. I know we have many more.
I'm going to say that, my name is Charles Hutchins, I'm a member of the Vocal Constructivists. I'm going to say smushed because I have no idea what it means. That it's that point of creative friction where you're working on something and it's intense and maybe you're having arguments with people, but at the same time a spark of something is coming out of that. And so in one sense it's frustrating, but in the other sense it's extremely productive. And I think that is one of the most valuable aspects of non-traditional notation, is that it gives you this spark for how to work things through. And it's as much a social process and a social phenomenon as it is a musical one. It's something that's sort of traditionally anarchist, like people coming together towards a common goal, like sort of Cardew's goals with Treatise, I think are very well realized. And this is also fun, although as Ali says, I don't know if fun is the point of it, although it is fun, but smushed is what it's all about. What I find frustrating is actually I'm also a composer, and so I'm going to hold my entire generation responsible for this. People my age that write music over-specify. They don't give us room for smushed. There's too much micro-control. I feel like some of this is because of how computer programs do notation too precisely, and like grids, someone gave a great talk about grids earlier. They can be a place where you can come off of and be a structure for exciting creativity if the composer approaches them that way, but they can also be a jail. I fear and I'm frustrated by things that are over-specified and grid-like in a way that do not give us the freedom to have smushed.
Maybe we could answer some more specific questions. there's this very, like, it's an ideological difference between what Andrew has been saying all weekend, the prescriptive and the descriptive. And you have to kind of, it's very hard to be in between those two things. Not that there isn't room for that, or there couldn't be discoveries within that, but that being in between those two spaces for a performer is extremely difficult. It's much more efficient and enjoyable to be on one side or the other, because then you can sort of work and play and reshape those kinds of ideas. Now I'm getting off topic.
Very on topic. Fun, frustrating, and smirched.
I'm trying to still say the words.
I did actually ask the composers to give me the PDF files of the pieces that are being performed tonight. So if you would like, we can look at them, and maybe the performers can tell us about the process of learning these pieces. Unless there's more people who would like to talk about Smith.
Celia Springate, vocal constructivist. As far as I'm concerned, the only meaning I can think of for schmerzt is it's a word that we can incorporate when we're performing our next proper graphic scores and go schmerzt. I really would like to endorse her point. I mean, it's both the frustration and the fun. And it ties in with, I'm sorry I've forgotten his name, the paper on the I-Song books and the different ways they were notated. And I think the frustration and the fun of this, I mean, I think George and Becky and I did somewhat inadequately music for 1, 2, and 3 by Christian Wolff yesterday. And we, again, at our early rehearsals, thought seriously about notating it conventionally, just to get it right. But in the end, we thought, no, it's alien to the nature of the piece. And I know we got bits, well, I know I got bits of it wrong, but I still think it was better to do it not notated. And I think that perhaps, as in the Ives songs, you need to look at the original edition to experience how you're going to interpret it ahead of time, but play off the Oracle computer one, which actually enables you to get it correct enough for your interpretation to come through. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody?
Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm in the vocal constructivists. I fell into all this by accident. I don't have a music background. I've got a dance and physical theatre background. And I used to be in something called the Scratch Orchestra, which again I fell into completely by accident, just by meeting some people who said, hey, why don't you come along? So I went along and learnt on the job, because I had no idea what was going on. And in the vocal constructivists, I feel rather the same, no idea. But then I think we have that in common. And we have wonderful times and sometimes extremely boring times trying to work out what to do with a particular problem, or score as you might call it. And the thing I'd like to talk about is the Braxton, because some of the pieces I just monkey with everybody else and with all the vocal stuff, and with the Braxton I was doing more movement. And so I was at liberty not to interpret it too closely with all the little dots, scores and scribbles and men. And I took a look at this wonderful, beautiful green painting graphic, and I let it speak to me, and I got a thing about nature and fields and leaves and destruction of nature and creation of nature. And then I just let ideas of props come into my mind, and movements and moods. And then of course we have to work how to work it between us all. So I have a bit of license in that sort of respect. So that's part of the fun. The frustration is getting the props together, making it work, and how to make all the timings work, where Les came up with some fantastic computer timing things I was able to watch. And the smirch, I think, is just the whole thing.